The grand crystal spire of the Galactic Council stretched into the purple skies of Capital World, its surfaces reflecting the light of 3 setting suns. Inside the highest chamber, 12 of the most powerful beings in the known galaxy sat in uncomfortable silence. Their usual calm had shattered, replaced by an anxiety that filled the room like a thick fog. "We have no choice," announced First Speaker White, his scaled hands trembling as he studied the holographic displays floating before him. "We must contact the humans." A collective shudder passed through the chamber. Councillor Green, her luminescent form flickering with distress, spoke up. "The humans, they're barely civilized. Their technology is crude, their methods primitive. They still use explosive propulsion in their ships, for Star's sake. Yet they have survived everything we've thrown at them," replied Second Speaker Black, his dark eyes reflecting the dancing lights of the displays. 3 attempts to contain their expansion, and each time they've emerged stronger. The images floating in the chamber center shifted to show a massive warship. Its dark hull bore the scars of countless battles, yet it moved with a grace that belied its size. The name Thunder was painted proudly on its side in human script. "Their Admiral Gray arrives in 6 hours," First Speaker White announced. "We will offer them what they've always wanted, a seat on the council." The chamber erupted in protests, but White raised his hand for silence. "The threat from dark space approaches. Our Starweaver weapon remains dormant despite our best efforts. We need alternative solutions." Admiral James Gray stood at the observation deck of his shuttle, watching Capital World grow larger in the viewport. At 62, his hair had turned silver, but his blue eyes retained their sharp intensity. He adjusted his formal uniform, making sure the battle ribbons were perfectly aligned. "They're scanning us again, sir," reported Lieutenant Mills from the pilot's seat. "That's the 7th time since we entered their system." Gray allowed himself a small smile. "Let them scan. They won't find anything they haven't seen before." The real surprise was safely hidden within the Thunder's seemingly primitive hull, waiting at the edge of the system. The landing was smooth, despite the obvious attempts by the Council's traffic control to assert their authority by making them wait in holding patterns. As Gray stepped onto the crystal platform, he was met by a delegation of Council representatives. Admiral Gray, the tall, silvery figure of First Speaker White, inclined his head slightly. "Welcome to Capital World." First Speaker Gray returned the gesture with military precision. "Your invitation was unexpected." They walked through corridors of impossible geometry, their footsteps echoing off crystal walls that seemed to sing with their own inner light. Gray noticed the increased security presence, the nervous glances of the Council staff. Something had them spooked. The Council chamber itself was a marvel of alien engineering, a vast dome of living crystal pulsed with colors that human eyes were never meant to see. The 12 Council members sat in their elevated positions, looking down at the human admiral who stood straight-backed and unimpressed in their presence. "Admiral Gray," First Speaker White began, his voice carrying the weight of centuries of authority. "We face a crisis that threatens every civilized world in the galaxy. A force approaches from dark space, consuming everything in its path. Our greatest weapon, the Starweaver, lies dormant. We require humanity's assistance." Gray's expression remained neutral, but his mind raced. The mighty Council, asking humans for help. The same Council that had tried to contain Earth's expansion 3 times in the past decade. "In exchange," White continued, "we offer humanity what you've long sought, full membership on the Galactic Council." Gray allowed a moment of silence to pass before responding. "And generous offer, First Speaker. However, I'm curious. Why now? Why us?" White's crystalline features flickered with what might have been embarrassment. "Your species has demonstrated remarkable problem-solving abilities. Your methods, while unconventional, have proven effective." "You mean we keep surviving your attempts to stop us?" Gray stated flatly. The chamber grew deadly quiet. In that silence, Gray's communicator chirped once, a preset signal from the thunder. Right on schedule, though none in the chamber knew its significance. First speaker, Gray said, his voice carrying clearly through the vast space. Earth accepts your invitation to help. We'll need full access to the Starweaver facility, of course, and our own ships will need to maintain position within the system. As the council members signaled their agreement, none noticed the small smile that crossed Gray's face. After all, humans had learned long ago that the best place to keep your enemies was close, especially when you knew they were lying. The Starweaver facility hung in space like a giant silver spider web, its delicate strands connecting 3 asteroid-sized power cores. Dr. Robert Stone pressed his hand against the viewing window of the transport shuttle, trying to make sense of the massive structure's design. Beautiful, isn't it? Master Blue, the Council's chief scientist, floated next to him. The alien's translucent body pulsed with soft blue light, though sadly, it refuses to power up. Stone nodded politely, but his attention was on Engineer Walker, who was already scanning the facility with human equipment. The readings on Walker's tablet made his eyebrows rise. "This is interesting," Walker muttered, just loud enough for Stone to hear. "These power readings don't match what we were told." The shuttle docked, and the human team stepped into the facility. Their magnetic boots clicked against the metal floor, a jarring contrast to the flowing crystal architecture they'd seen on Capital World. This place was different. Older, more dangerous. Master Blue led them through winding corridors. "We've tried every power combination possible," he explained, his voice carrying a hint of frustration. "The cores simply won't align properly." Stone watched the alien carefully. After 20 years of studying alien body language, he'd gotten good at spotting lies. Master Blue was telling many of them. "Walker," Stone called out, "why don't you check the primary core? I'll take a look at the control systems." Walker nodded and headed off with his team. As soon as they were gone, Stone turned to Master Blue. "Now shall we discuss what this facility really is?" The alien's glow dimmed slightly. "I don't understand." Stone pulled out his tablet, showing a basic energy diagram. "These power fluctuations, they're not random. They're formatted data. This isn't just a weapon, it's broadcasting something." Before Master Blue could respond, Walker's voice crackled over the comm. "Dr. Stone, you need to see this. Now." In the primary core chamber, Walker stood before a massive wall of ancient text. His scanning device was projecting a rough translation into the air. "It's a warning," Walker said, his voice tight. "This facility wasn't built by the Council. They found it. And it's not a weapon against some dark space threat. It's something else entirely." Stone read the translation, his face growing darker with each line. The facility was a mind control device, designed to broadcast signals that could override the free will of entire species. The 3 cores weren't power sources, they were broadcasting arrays. "Master Blue," Stone turned to face the alien scientist. "Care to explain why the Council really wanted our help?" But Master Blue had vanished. Warning klaxons suddenly blared through the facility. Stone's comm unit crackled with emergency signals. "Security breach in sectors 7 through 12, a mechanical voice announced. "All personnel, remain in place." Walker quickly pulled up the facility's security feeds on his tablet. The screen showed Council security forces moving through the corridors, their weapons drawn. "They're not heading for us," Walker noted, his eyes narrowing. "They're sealing off the evidence." Stone activated his emergency beacon, a direct line to the thunder. "Captain Smith, are you receiving?" "Loud and clear, Doctor," the captain's steady voice replied. "We've been monitoring. The Council's ships are moving to surround the facility." "The threat from dark space," Stone said grimly. "It was a lie. They wanted us to fix this place so they could use it against us. Against everyone." "Understood," Smith responded. "Initiating Protocol Shadow. Get your people to the emergency pods in Section D. We'll handle the rest." Stone turned to Walker. "Download everything you can. "We're leaving." As they rushed through the corridors, avoiding security patrols, Stone couldn't help but smile. The Council had made a crucial mistake. They'd assumed humans would approach the problem like they did, looking for ways to make the facility work. They'd never expected humans to look for ways to destroy it. In the distance, they heard the Thunder's engines powering up. The sound was different now, carrying a deep resonance that made the facility's crystal structures vibrate. The Council was about to learn why humanity's primitive technology was anything but simple, and why trusting humans with their secrets had been their biggest mistake. The Thunder's engines hummed with barely contained power as Captain Smith watched the holographic display of the Starweaver facility. Dr. Stone and Walker had made it to their evacuation point, but the real challenge was just beginning. "Multiple Council warships entering the system, Captain," reported the sensor officer. "They're not even trying to hide anymore." Smith nodded, his weathered face showing no concern. "Let them come. Dr. Stone, have you secured the data?" Inside the facility, Stone and Walker had barricaded themselves in a small control room. Walker's fingers flew across his tablet, downloading everything he could find. "The more I dig, the worse it gets," Walker said, his face pale in the blue light of the screens. "This facility is over 10,000 years old. The Council didn't build it. They stole it from a dead civilization." Stone looked over Walker's shoulder at the ancient texts and diagrams flowing across the screen. "The species that built this, what happened to them?" Walker's hands paused. "They used it on themselves. The device drove their entire civilization mad. They tore themselves apart." A loud bang echoed through the corridor outside. Council security forces were getting closer. "Captain," Stone spoke into his comm, "you need to see this data now." He nodded to Walker, who initiated the encrypted transmission to the Thunder. On the warship's bridge, Smith's eyes widened as he read the translation. "So there is no threat from dark space. The Council wanted us to fix their mind control weapon." "Not just fix it," Stone replied through the comm. "They needed humans specifically because our brains work differently. The device couldn't affect us directly. They wanted to study us, learn how to modify it to work on human minds." Another explosion rocked the facility. Through the control room's window, Stone watched as Council troops in crystal armor advanced down the corridor. "The Council has been lying to everyone for centuries," Walker added, still downloading data. "They've used pieces of this technology before, subtle influences to keep other species in line. But they wanted full control. A blast of energy shattered the window. Stone pulled Walker down as crystal shards rained around them. "Time to go," Stone shouted. He grabbed the tablet and pushed Walker toward the emergency exit at the back of the room. They ran through maintenance tunnels, their magnetic boots clanking against metal floors. Behind them, they could hear the Council forces shouting orders. "Captain," Stone panted into his comm, "did you get everything?" "Every bit," Smith replied. "The Council ships are moving to block our escape vectors. But they're about to learn something about human warfare." Stone and Walker reached the emergency pod bay. As they strapped themselves in, Stone looked out the small window. The Thunder had moved into position above the facility, its primitive hull now gleaming with energy patterns that no Council scientist would recognize. "They thought our technology was simple," Walker said, initiating the pod's launch sequence. "They never realized we've been holding back." The pod shot out into space just as the Thunder's true nature was revealed. Panels along its hull slid aside, exposing weapon systems that had been carefully hidden for years. The Council ships, arranged in their standard attack formation, suddenly found themselves facing something they'd never seen before. "All ships," Captain Smith's voice was calm as he broadcasted on all frequencies, "this is the Earth warship Thunder. Your facility has been compromised. Stand down." The Council flagship responded by charging its weapons. "They never learn," Smith sighed. "Execute Protocol Shadow." The Thunder's hull rippled with dark energy. The Council ship's crystal weapons powered up, and then went dead. Their engines flickered and died. In the space of 10 seconds, the entire Council fleet had been neutralized. How? Walker whispered, watching through the pod's window. Simple. Stone smiled. Humans learned long ago that the best defense isn't an impenetrable shield. It's making sure the enemy's weapons never work in the first place. As their pod docked with the Thunder, Stone looked back at the Starweaver facility. The Council's greatest weapon, their last hope for total control, now floated powerless in space. They had tried to use humanity's primitive nature against them. Instead, they'd discovered why humans had survived every attempt to control them. Sometimes, the simplest solutions were the most dangerous of all. The Council's emergency session erupted into chaos as First Speaker White slammed his fist onto the crystal table. Holographic displays showed the Thunder hovering over their disabled fleet, a sight that shattered centuries of Council superiority. How? He demanded, his scaled skin hailing with rage. How did they hide such technology from us? Second Speaker Black's dark eyes narrowed. Because we saw what we wanted to see. We thought their ships were primitive because they used metal and engines. We never looked deeper. The chamber's doors burst open as Master Blue rushed in, his translucent form pulsing with agitation. The humans, they didn't just disable the Starweaver. They copied its database. They know everything. Aboard the Thunder, Captain Smith stood calmly on his bridge, watching the Council's backup fleet approach through the system's outer rings. Their crystal ships sparkled like angry stars against the black of space. They're bringing in their deep space fleet, Lieutenant Mills reported from his station. 30 capital ships, over 100 smaller vessels. Smith nodded, then opened a channel to the engine room. Walker, how's our little surprise coming along? In the engine room, Walker looked up from his workstation, surrounded by holographic displays showing the Starweaver's stolen data. Ready, Captain. They won't believe what's about to hit them. Dr. Stone stood next to Walker, studying the ancient texts. The Council never understood the technology they found. They spent centuries trying to use it as a weapon. But it was never meant for that. All hands, Smith's voice echoed through the ship. Prepare for combat. Show them what humanity's been hiding. The Thunder's hull began to transform. Plates shifted and realigned, revealing layers of technology that looked both ancient and impossibly advanced. The primitive metal surface now rippled with energy patterns that matched those found in the Starweaver facility. Multiple weapons locks from the Council fleet, Mills announced. They're charging their main crystals. Smith smiled. Let them fire first. Let's show them why humans still use primitive explosives. The Council fleet opened fire. Brilliant beams of crystal energy lanced through space and passed harmlessly through the Thunder's hull. Return fire, Smith ordered. All batteries. The Thunder's response wasn't the crude missiles or simple energy weapons the Council expected. Instead, precise beams of focused antimatter streaked across space, each shot carefully calculated to disable rather than destroy. Sir, Mills called out. Council ships are launching fighters. Initiate point defense grid, Smith replied, and broadcast the message. Throughout the Council fleet, every communication system suddenly activated. Dr. Stone's voice echoed through every ship. This is a message to all Council ships. The Starweaver facility wasn't a weapon, it was a warning. The civilization that built it destroyed themselves trying to control others. We've disabled your ships to prevent history from repeating itself. On the Council ships, crews watched in amazement as their mighty crystal weapons flickered and died. The Thunder's primitive hull had been broadcasting a shutdown signal using the very technology the Council had tried to steal. Captain, Stone called from engineering. We're detecting multiple new ships entering the system. Non-Council vessels. Smith checked his display and smiled. Ships from other species, long held under Council control, were arriving. They had seen the truth broadcast, seen the Council's lies exposed, and made their choice. The Council didn't just underestimate our technology, Smith broadcasted to all ships. They underestimated our willingness to share it. To all non-council ships, we offer you the choice the council never gave. Join us, or leave in peace. The age of control is over. One by one, the arriving ships moved to position themselves alongside the Thunder. The council fleet, powerless and exposed, could only watch. First Speaker White's voice crackled over the comm, rage and disbelief mixing in his tone. You barbaric humans, you destroyed centuries of order. No, Smith replied calmly. We just showed everyone what real civilization looks like. It's not about control, it's about choice. As more ships arrived, choosing freedom over council control, the Thunder stood watch. Its primitive hull gleamed with power that had been hidden for years, waiting for this moment. The council had sought to use humanity's help to enslave the galaxy. Instead, they had given humanity the perfect chance to set it free. The council's last resort emerged from hidden hangars beneath Capital World's surface. Ancient warships, dark and twisted, their hulls made of black crystal that absorbed light itself. These were the weapons they had sworn never to use, created from forbidden technology stolen from dead civilizations. From the Thunder's bridge, Captain Smith watched the tactical display with growing concern. Those aren't normal council ships. Energy readings are off the charts, Mills reported, his fingers dancing across his control panel. They're using technology similar to the Starweaver, but corrupted somehow. In engineering, Walker's eyes widened as he analyzed the data. Captain, those ships, they're powered by trapped minds. The Council didn't just steal the technology, they've been capturing and using the consciousness of other species to power their secret weapons. The black ships moved with impossible speed, their crystal weapons firing beams of pure darkness that cut through space itself. Several of the freed alien ships that had joined humanity's cause vanished instantly, their crews lost to the void. All ships, evasive maneuvers, Smith commanded across all frequencies. Dr. Stone, please tell me you have something we can use against these abominations. Stone's voice came back calm but urgent. The Starweaver wasn't just sending warnings about mind control, Captain. It was sending instructions. Walker, show them what we found. Walker transmitted a sequence of commands to the Thunder's control systems. The ship's hull began to glow with a new pattern, ancient symbols flowing across its surface like liquid light. What humans discovered long ago, Stone explained, was that the simplest solution is often the best. The Council spent centuries trying to modify this technology. We spent our time learning how to turn it off. The Thunder's hull pulsed once, twice, then released a wave of pure white energy. As it washed over the black ships, their crystal surfaces began to crack. Voices, thousands of them, echoed through every communication channel as trapped minds were finally set free. Liberty ships now, Smith ordered. The vessels that had joined humanity's cause opened fire with weapons given to them by the Thunder. Simple, solid shots, railguns firing projectiles at near-light speed. The Council's black crystal ships, their stolen power failing, shattered under the impact. More Council ships approaching from the outer system, Mills announced. Regular fleet this time. Lots of them. Smith nodded. They never learned, did they? Walker, show them what else humanity's been hiding. The Thunder's primitive engine room transformed. Panels slid away, revealing a core of pure energy contained by fields that looked deceptively simple. Walker typed in a final command, and the ship's true power was unleashed. Space itself seemed to bend around the Thunder. The approaching Council fleet suddenly found their fancy faster-than-light drives useless as local space-time twisted to humanity's will. You see, Stone's voice broadcasted to all ships. Humans never needed crystal technology or stolen power sources. We learned to work with the universe itself. Simple, direct, and unstoppable. From the Council chamber, First Speaker White watched in horror as his secret fleet was neutralized by technology that his people had dismissed as primitive. Impossible. Your species is barely 1,000 years into space travel. That's where you were wrong, Smith replied. We're young, yes, But that means we never stopped learning, never stopped looking for new solutions. While you tried to control the galaxy with stolen power, we learned to work with it. The thunder moved forward, its hull now glowing with power that made the Council's crystal technology look like children's toys. Behind it, ships from dozens of freed species followed, their own vessels now enhanced with humanity's simple improvements. "The age of the Council is over," Smith announced to all listening ships. "Not because we destroyed you, but because we showed everyone the truth. Real power doesn't come from control or stolen technology. It comes from understanding, cooperation, and the willingness to try new things." As the Council's last ships stood down, the Thunder's hull slowly returned to its normal, metallic appearance. To anyone watching, it once again looked simple, primitive, almost crude. But now they all knew better. Sometimes, the simplest things were the most powerful of all. Capital World's crystal spires no longer sparkled with their usual pride. The grand chambers of the Council, once filled with arrogant voices, now echoed with uncertainty. Representatives from 100 species crowded the halls, their voices rising in anger as centuries of council lies unraveled. In the main chamber, Admiral Gray stood before the assembled species, his simple blue uniform a stark contrast to the elaborate robes around him. Behind him, holographic displays showed the full extent of the Council's deceptions, secret facilities, stolen technologies, and suppressed civilizations. For centuries, Gray's voice carried clearly through the chamber. The Council claimed to protect us from darkness. Instead, they were the darkness. First Speaker White, now under guard, his scales dull with defeat, spoke up. "Everything we did was to maintain order, to prevent chaos." Chaos. A representative from the Centauri world stood up, their crystalline form flickering with anger. "You imprisoned our scientists who discovered ways to travel without your crystal drives. You banned our medical discoveries," shouted another, their tentacles waving in frustration. "Called them too primitive, while our people suffered." In orbit above, the Thunder maintained its watch. Captain Smith and Dr. Stone monitored the proceedings from the bridge, where Walker was explaining humanity's technology to amazed representatives from other species. "It's so simple," Walker said, showing them engine schematics. "You don't need crystal matrices or consciousness drives. Basic fusion, managed properly, can do more than you imagine." But the Council said simple technology couldn't achieve faster-than-light travel. An alien engineer protested. Stone smiled. "They lied. Look." He pulled up an image of the Thunder's drive core. "Humans discovered that the simpler the system, the more efficient it could be. While the Council built elaborate crystal networks, we learned to work with space itself." Back in the chamber, more revelations emerged. The Council's secret police, thinking their masters invincible, had kept detailed records of every suppressed innovation, every silenced voice. "We found these in the Starweaver's databases," Gray announced, displaying more files. The Council didn't just steal technology. They actively prevented other species from developing their own solutions. Anything they couldn't control, they banned. A new voice rang out from the chamber entrance. "Then perhaps it's time for a change." All eyes turned to see Captain Smith entering, flanked by representatives from the freed ships that had joined humanity's cause. Each carried examples of their own innovations, technologies the Council had dismissed as worthless. "The Arcturians developed medical nanites using basic materials," Smith said, gesturing to one group. "The Proxima colonies found ways to terraform worlds without crystal terraformers. The Centauri created FTL communications using quantum mechanics instead of consciousness networks." He paused, looking at the former Council members. "You called all of these primitive, worthless. But combined with human innovations, they're more powerful than anything you stole." Around the chamber, species began sharing their hidden discoveries. Technologies developed in secret, innovations suppressed by Council decree. Simple solutions that, working together, could transform the galaxy. "This is why humanity succeeded," Gray continued. We never stopped looking for new answers. We never believed that complex meant better. And most importantly, we share what we learn. The Thunder sensors detected more ships arriving. Representatives from the outer colonies, hearing of the Council's fall. Each brought their own stories, their own suppressed discoveries. "We offer a choice," Smith announced to the chamber. "Not control, but cooperation. Not suppression, but sharing. A galaxy where every species can contribute, where simple solutions aren't dismissed, where progress isn't controlled by a few." First Speaker White watched in despair as his former subjects embraced this new vision. "You'll destroy everything we built." "No," Gray replied calmly. "We'll build something better. Something real." As the day continued, new alliances formed. Species that had been kept apart by council decree found their technologies complemented each other perfectly. The Thunder's crew shared their primitive innovations freely, showing how humanity's simple solutions could enhance even the most advanced alien technology. The Council's age of control was ending. In its place, something new was emerging. A galaxy where the simplest solutions often proved the most powerful, and where cooperation replaced control. The stars themselves seemed brighter that day, as if celebrating the dawn of a new era. 1 year after the Council's fall, Capital World looked very different. The crystal spires remained, but they no longer dominated the skyline. New structures of various designs stood alongside them. Some metal, some organic, some energy-based, each representing the freed creativity of different species. The Thunder floated in orbit, its primitive hull now a symbol of the revolution that had changed the galaxy. Captain Smith stood on his bridge, watching ships of all designs moving peacefully through space. Some used crystal drives, others fusion engines, and some entirely new propulsion systems developed through cooperation. "Hard to believe it's only been a year," Dr. Stone said, joining him at the viewport. "Remember when they call our technology primitive?" Smith smiled. "Now they're calling it revolutionary. Simple solutions working together." The main viewing screen activated, showing the ceremony taking place in the former council chamber. Admiral Gray stood at the center, surrounded by representatives from 300 species. The old council seats had been removed, replaced by a circular arrangement where all members sat as equals. "The Galactic Federation is now officially established," Gray announced, his voice carrying across thousands of worlds. "Not to control, but to connect. Not to suppress, but to share." In the engine room, Walker was conducting a workshop. Engineers from dozens of species crowded around, watching as he demonstrated how human fusion technology could enhance their own systems. "See, your crystal matrices don't need replacing," he explained, pointing to a holographic diagram. "They just need to work alongside other technologies. Hybrid systems, sharing strengths." The former Starweaver facility had been transformed. Where once it held weapons of control, now it housed the largest research center in known space. Scientists from all species worked together, combining their knowledge freely. "The latest survey results are in," Stone reported, checking his tablet. 97 previously suppressed technologies have been successfully integrated into public use. Medical advances alone have improved life expectancy on 40 worlds. The Thunder sensors detected a small ship approaching, one of the new hybrid designs. Its hull combined human metal construction with crystal enhancement, powered by a fusion core that used principles from 3 different species. "Captain," the ship's pilot called. "Permission to dock. We'd like to show you our latest innovation." "Always welcome," Smith replied. This was common now. Species freely sharing their discoveries, looking for ways to combine technologies. The Federation's only rule was simple: share what you learn. In the former Council archives, now open to all, researchers had found thousands of suppressed inventions. Simple solutions that the Council had deemed too primitive were now revolutionizing entire worlds. Breaking news from the Proxima colonies, the Federation broadcast announced. The combined use of human terraforming techniques with Arcturian biology has successfully transformed a dead world in record time. Free access to these methods will be available to all Federation members. Smith turned as his bridge crew prepared for their next mission. The Thunder, once a hidden weapon, now served as a teaching vessel. Its crew traveled the galaxy, sharing humanity's knowledge while learning from others. New ship design approved for production. Walker reported from engineering. Uses our simple fusion core as the base, enhanced by technologies from 12 different species. They're calling it the Unity class. The former first speaker, White, now living under house arrest, watched the celebrations from his window. "I still don't understand," he said to his guards. "How did such simple technologies defeat our advanced systems?" "Because," Admiral Gray replied, having come to see his former enemy one last time, "the most powerful force in the universe isn't technology. It's cooperation. You sought to control through complexity. We chose to connect through simplicity." As the Federation celebration continued, the Thunder prepared to depart. Their next mission would take them to the galaxy's outer regions, where more societies waited to join the new era of cooperation. "Look at that," Smith said to Stone, pointing to the new ships rising from Capital World. Each one represented the combined knowledge of multiple species, proof that the simplest solutions often work best when shared. The stars stretched out before them, no longer divided by council borders. In the end, humanity's greatest contribution hadn't been their technology. It had been their willingness to share it, to learn from others, and to prove that the simplest path forward was to walk it together. The Thunder's engines hummed to life. Still simple, still powerful, and now part of something far greater than humanity had imagined.